Welcome everyone to our webinar. It's seven-figure branding. So we have Kristy Sieve and Holly Shoemaker from Mertz Design Studio to tell us the difference between probably our current brand or like a standard brand, and then what it takes to have a brand that can scale. But I would like to first introduce Carrie Taft. She's our sponsor from Taft Systems. So Carrie, would you like to talk about what you do?
Yes, absolutely. I'm kind of nervous though, sharing something, and then Holly and Kristy are coming right after to talk about branding. So thank you so much for having me. My name is Carrie Taft. I'm CEO and founder of Taft Systems. We are a startup tech company here in Cincinnati, a six-figure tech startup. So I'm happy to take all the seven-figure tips from the webinar presenters today. And basically what we do is provide an all-in-one business management software with concierge support. So what that means is we help small business owners and solopreneurs increase their revenue and grow their businesses with one simple login. And we love helping small business owners, and primarily female business owners. We are woman-led and operated ourselves. And we help you streamline all of your processes, run your business on autopilot so you can get back to what it is you do best and know that the operations of your business will still keep running. And when I say operations, I mean your invoices, your calendars, appointment reminders, your social media scheduling, your CRM, your email marketing, text message marketing, your calendars, your courses, your online communities. We truly are an all-in-one. And I'm sure I'm forgetting some other amazing features because we just have so many. It's hard to, say them all in a 4-minute spiel. But basically, we want to be your behind-the-scenes business partner and really be the crutch that you can rely on so that you can help your clients in your zone of genius. And Jill shared my link there in the chat. So thank you for that, Jill.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Carrie, for sponsoring this whole quarter's worth of webinars. There's going to be some amazing content. Stay tuned for Carrie's next month. She's going to be talking about automation and building funnels and all that good stuff. Thanks again.
Thank you. Have fun.
Thank you. So I'm going to turn it over to Kristy and Holly. And are you both going to speak, or how's that? How do you want that to go? Okay. I'm gonna adjust the speaker thing.
All right, Holly, you want to get it up?
Yeah, there we go. Is it full screen, guys?
It is. Perfect.
Yay. Okay.
Cool. Good morning, guys. I'm Kristy Sieve. I'm president at Mertz, and I've got with me Holly Shoemaker. She's our director of graphics. And we're really excited to be here with you, sharing some of our insights that we've learned from working on brands worth millions. So on the screen, we've got some of the big brands that we've had a hand in building, and we've got a lot of lessons that we think could be helpful for those that are just getting started. Some people, you're on your way here. Some have already hit this number, but a lot of the questions we get is, what does it take to get to this level? So whether you're laying your first brick, you're adding some final touches, our goal today is to show you some tools and some strategies that you can apply yourself, and times when you might need a partner to help you get there, right? So take some notes. We're going to have a few QR codes for some downloads and stuff like that as we go. So feel free and tell us to stop if you need us to stay on that slide for longer.
All right. This is where I had issues last time. Like, 1 second. There we go.
Yeah, there you go. All right. So the first question is, what is $1 million brand, right? So we know everybody, when they're starting out, they use tools like Fiverr and Canva and AI. And these are lifesaver tools. They're going to help you hustle and get off the ground. And as a brand, we've been there too. But at some point, you're going to want to do more than just get by. You're going to want to break through. And that's when that shift in your mentality starts to happen. Those $1 million brands are the ones you start to recognize. You've heard their names. in conversation. You might see them on the shelf, but they're not quite household names yet. What do these $1 million brands have in common? First, they usually have a pretty killer marketing strategy. They're not just winging it. Second, they're offering a unique product that you're not going to find just anywhere. And finally, their branding. It's consistent and strategic, and it shows up at the perfect time in the right places. We feel like those three things together really are the game changer.
Yeah, and we just wanted to clear one thing up too, just the difference between $1 million brand and $1 billion brand. What you're seeing here is, the logos of brands that we've worked with. Some are $1 million, some are $1 billion. We always like to point out, like Procter and Gamble, for example, that is definitely a billion dollar brand without question. And in fact, most of their individual brands are also $1 billion brands, like Downy and Head and Shoulders. But I had the tendency to do this too. We often think of brands like P&G to be that $1 million brand, but in reality, those brands are all that $1 billion. So that $1 million mark that we're talking about today, that is much more within reach. Oh, I'm sorry, guys. There it is. Boop. And then when we really think about in talking about like what goes into a brand, I think everyone here, a lot of people, if you ask them, they're immediately going to think logo. It's the first thing you recognize. It's the first thing you see. So you go to logo. But in reality, a brand is so many different things. It's a whole entire ecosystem of touch points and experiences that define how people see and how they will interact with your brand. So it's not just that logo mark. It's your website, your packaging, the ads you run, social media presence, the tone of your emails, and even the people that are representing your company. Think of every single interaction someone has with your brand is a touch point. And so, and each one adds or takes away from that overall impression. When you think about the brands that really stand out, the ones that stay memorable with us, they do get one thing right. They're consistent across all of these touch points. And that's, as we're talking about the difference between a good brand and $1 million one, consistency that reinforces their identity at every touch point, every interaction is really crucial. It's creating that seamless, memorable experience.
So we like to talk about the life cycle for launching a brand or a product, and we break it down into three major stages. We call it think, make, and move. And this is our methodology for a successful launch. First, we have think in purple. This is where it starts. You're building your strategy. You're laying a foundation. We're diving into consumer insights. We're doing critical market research, and this guides everything that follows. And it's making sure that you know who you are, what you're talking about, and why you even exist. The blue phase in the middle is make. And this is where we think the fun starts, right? Because you're designing and developing the actual brand. And you're starting to take that strategy from think and you're bringing it to life. And you're creating that logo, the visual identity, your packaging, beyond. Green represents move. And this is really all about getting your product or your brand off the shelf and into the world. It's like the action stage when you're executing your e-commerce strategies, your marketing campaigns, and you're making sure that social media game is on point. So we kind of go through our process calling it think, make, move. And we broke up the next couple sections to give you tips inside of each of them so that no matter where you are, you can kind of apply some of those elements. So first is think. There is a huge variety of services you can encounter here. You don't need all of them, and we're just going to go into a couple today. The thing is, this is one of the most important steps that you're going to take when you're going to build a brand. $1 million brand does not skip the thinking stage. This is that foundation that often requires an expert to guide you through. But like I said, we have a couple things you can do yourself to get started. So one of the very first ones that we always start with is a brand audit. So this is such an important step for a successful brand. It's taking that deep and honest look into the mirror to help understand where your brand stands today, whether it's been created or not. You can see your strengths, weaknesses, what's holding you back. And just more importantly, you can get some insights on how your consumers perceive your brand, not just how you think they do. We like to focus on key areas when looking at a brand audit, like your brand personality, your target audience, consistency, authenticity. These factors are what we believe make a brand memorable and trustworthy, but we never stop there. We recommend a competitor analysis as part of this process. It helps you understand what your competitors are doing right and where there are gaps in the market and where you might be missing some opportunities. So we feel like it's super important to do these brand audits to help you understand where can you differentiate yourself in a crowded market and avoid that trap of being just a copy of what other people are doing. And the very last part of an audit that we want people to always remember is inspiration really does come from unexpected places. And sometimes in order to level up, you have to look outside of your personal immediate competitors and see what either big players or other industries are doing in order to make a mark.
All right, so we just have an example here. So this summer, our team had the pleasure of working with In the Curious Kitchen, which is a local brand built on family traditions, homemade flavors, and a deep passion for creating this delicious, high-quality products. After our initial kickoff, we conducted, a detailed audit of this brand. We uncovered that while the glasses and the logo represent a personal connection to the founder's story, the logo itself was difficult to read at smaller sizes, making it less effective in certain formats. Taking it to on shelf, like whenever you do an audit, you go to the store, you look on shelf. The current packaging really wasn't truly capturing the rich artisanal nature of these products. And as a result, it wasn't drawing that immediate attention or that appetite appeal that such a flavorful brand really deserves. And during our audit, when you're doing food, you need to taste test everything. So we saw firsthand how delicious these offerings were, but the packaging wasn't telling this story of taste or reflecting the founder's heart or her passion. And then by looking at competition, we really want to dig in who's the competition, who's doing it well. You look inside and outside of category. We found inspiration, you'll see in that bottom right, McAvoy Ranch. We found inspiration in that brand. This brand evoked a lot of unique giftable moments and had a very elevated presence. Two things that In the Curious Kitchen was really looking to do. So our goal was really, how do we push In the Curious Kitchen? We need to push them to the next level. We needed to raise the bar while ensuring that this unique voice was shown through this packaging and marketing materials.
So one of the other fun categories that we love working on with new brands is naming. And this is so important to get right inside of this think stage, because your brand's name is often its first impression or the first time somebody's hearing about you. So you really want it to stick. On the chart here, we've kind of got a definition that shows the different ways that brands can be named and some different ways to think about creating names while you're naming your brand. Some of them are really, really simple and clear. TurboTax, Container Store, right? Obvious what they do and who they are. But others go on a more abstract route, like Google, Kodak, Spotify. They're totally made up. But now, because they've established such a strong presence, they're totally unforgettable. So it's really about exploring all of these different names in order to find the right way to name your brand. So abstract names only work when you've got a killer marketing strategy to give them meaning over time, right? So our favorite trick is doing this type of naming exercise in a workshop. We'll bring together the team or the stakeholders, or, if you're a single founder, we will recommend getting together friends and family who know what you're trying to achieve. And you throw all these categories up on the whiteboard and you work with the team to try to come up with options that fit every single category. So you try to break into every single different option. And then you start to combine, mix and mash them up. And that's really where some magic starts to happen, is when you combine and simplify. The bottom line is that whether it's straightforward or abstract, the key is to make your name resonate, and to get creative and bold. So once you've got all of those names, the next step would be to evaluate them, right? And so we like to use scorecards, especially when we do this workshop style. And we included a QR code. You can download the worksheet here if you are interested and have a copy of the scorecard for yourself. But the way we break it up is we take a look at some different specific criteria in order to score from a 1 to 5, right? 1 is weak, 5 is strong. And then you add it together and see what each name scores so that you have a way to evaluate what you've got. Some of the things that we recommend you take a look at are, how does it look? Because if it's going to become a logo mark, you know, it's important how it looks. Is it distinctive? Does it have any meaning or layers of meaning? We always look at energy. Does it have the right energy? Is it memorable? How does it sound? Is it easy to say? That's one of my favorite pet peeves, is when somebody names something that nobody can pronounce or say. Does it spark conversation? And lastly, you see the one on the end that says trademark with an asterisk. You need a name that's unique, right? And so we always like to give people a warning that as you go through this process, before you completely fall in love, you always need to vet these names with a trademark attorney, because the last thing anybody wants is a cease and desist in their inbox after they invested so much time and energy building a brand or a logo.
All right. As you can tell, we love the art of naming. It's definitely an art. And it always can get very interesting. I think it's just, there's always a lot of twists and turns with naming. This is just a little glimpse into our process. You probably know the man on the left, Dwayne Johnson. He is a stakeholder in the premium water brand Voss, with a V. He wanted to create a new, better for you energy drink that reflected his energetic personality, but he also wanted it to be very accessible to everyone. So naturally, when we started the process, one of the first names we looked at was Boss, with a B. It had that clever connection to Voss, but you know, ultimately it was very polarizing. When you go out there and talk about it, it's very polarizing, and it really didn't capture this inclusive energy that we were aiming for. Another name we landed on was Toa. It means Polynesian warrior. This felt much more authentic, and it really did align with Dwayne's brand. You know, the team, we were very excited about this name until, you know, that trademark attorney, he stepped in. There was another brand out there that was using this name. So really all of that excitement, you kind of are, you know, that big, okay, you know, back to the drawing board. What else have we done? But we really, you know, we didn't want that to stop us and to continuing to push on what we loved about Toa. There was a lot there that was interesting to us, the 1 syllable. So we pushed on that a lot. That transformed into the name Zoa. The name is ownable. No one else has it. It's unique. It does radiate that energy we were looking for. And with that A to Z, you know, that vibe there, it did kind of, you know, it has an underlying feeling of inclusivity. So including everyone from A to Z. So this was a really great solution for the brand. Even when you look at the can, such a simple name is able to be so bold in that small little skinny can that we have.
All right. One of the next things to consider when building your strategy are archetypes. This is Holly's favorite. So you'll probably feel that when she talks in the next slide. But some brands just seem to get you. And one of the reasons why is that they really embrace this idea of archetypes, which are patterns of behavior and personality traits that help brands connect with their audience on that deeper level. There are 12 core archetypes that were developed by Carl Jung, and they allow brands to create an identity that resonates with people on that personal level. Take Nike, for example. They embody the hero body archetype, which inspires us to push our limits with their Just Do It campaign. See the connection? Then on the other hand, we have Coca-Cola, who taps into the innocent archetype, promoting happiness, simplicity, and nostalgia with their campaigns that are focused on joy and togetherness. So these brands really resonate with us because they connect emotionally, because they align with personality traits we understand. The QR code will take you to a blog post that Holly wrote a couple weeks ago that kind of digs into each of these and gives a better and deeper explanation of what they are. But I think some of them, when you see it, you're like, duh. One of our favorite things is to go back to brands and try to say, oh, what archetype would they be? And to really like dig in to understand, what drives them.
Yeah. Archetypes are fun. There's a lot, if you just start to, if you haven't Googled it and looked it up, there's just so much information out there. And when you combine archetypes with brands, it just it really makes them feel more alive, which is what we love. So, using archetypes in a workshop setting, that's what we did with this slide. We used archetypes in a workshop setting. It really helps to kind of completely transform how you define your brand's personality. It really allows for collaboration, creativity. It builds a deeper understanding with your team of what makes a brand truly stand out. Teams, like when they come together in this space, when you're really working and having these conversations, they really, they're more energized. They're really engaged, which is all you can ask for, and really able to explore this brand tone of voice from multiple angles. So creating that solid foundation for long-term success moving forward. This is what we did with the Bethany Legacy Foundation. One thing we also like to talk about is, not just stopping and focusing on one archetype, because usually there's more than one that are really kind of rising to the surface. So with Bethany Legacy Foundation, we really looked at how do we blend multiple archetypes to create a brand personality that's really dynamic and very layered. Because when you think about it, just like people, brands aren't one-dimensional either. There's so much to our personality. So this approach helped us create Bethany Legacy's tone of voice, which we called, in this case, the compassionate creator. This became the communication guide for all of the materials. And from there, everything they did, messaging, marketing, even consumer interactions or customer interactions, had a clear, very consistent voice that was representing who they are. This is something that you would see as a page in your guidelines that really helps speak to, what that tone of voice is, what's the mood, and what's the style. Really helps with writing as well.
So those were just some snippets and think. We're going to dive into make, but remember, we can only get here once we have that solid strategy. You've done your thinking, you know what your consumer wants. So now it's time to bring it to life. And this is where things have the ability to start feeling more real. We're focusing on elements like color, packaging, brand guidelines, and these all play a really crucial role in a cohesive brand experience and where things really start to be tangible. So we always start off with my favorite, which is color. So color is one of my preferred ways to talk about bringing a brand to life. So I love to tell people $1 million brand does not pick a color because the founder liked it. I can repeat that. They don't pick a color because the founder liked it. There is research behind these choices. If you look at this chart, you can see some examples. The big brands we know are infused with strategic color decisions. So have you ever wondered when you're driving down the highway and you see all of the little signs on the side that are telling you what restaurants are at that exit? They're mostly red, and that is not a coincidence because red is known to stimulate your appetite and making you hungry. So that color psychology is then tapping into how these different colors affect your emotions and decisions. Another example would be that blue is often associated with trust and calm. So many banks and tech companies use blue. Green symbolizes growth and health, which makes it really popular for wellness brands. Every color carries some meanings, and when you choose the right one for your brand, it's not just creating a beautiful visual identity, it helps you to start evoke that feeling. So we think it's important to think about the color psychology behind your color choices when you build a brand. And what gets even trickier is when you have a product or a brand that you want to take internationally. You don't only have to be aware of what a name might translate to in another language, but certain cultures have different responses to color.
And we always think about when you're driving home the next time on the highway, you're probably going to really start to see all of those billboards and start to understand and be like, oh my goodness, they are all red. But really, all of this is taking it back to the think phase, because really all of these decisions go back to that think phase. How you want your consumer to feel about your brand. Like, how do you want that? And you've nailed down things like strategy, your values, and then, really color is going to play that huge role in making those feelings come to life. So it's not just about looking pretty. It's really about communicating who you are with just that one glance.
Yep. So a lot of people we talk to and work with have a physical product. Some people have services, so this doesn't apply as directly. But when you do have a product and you have a package that's on the shelf, it's really good to understand that you have to start this thinking all the way back in the think stage, right? Because we now have an understanding of our consumer and we have to know what they want, how they shop, what they do, right? So making that package pop is kind of one of the next things as you're developing that brand. You need to grab their attention fast and you need to deliver the right information. The first thing to remember is this messaging hierarchy. You need to understand on your package, what do you want people to see first, second, and last? Is it the product name or is it a special feature? And the ways you do that with this are size and placement. And you need to make sure that most important information is always bold in the front and the center. With a lot of packages, you're going to have regulations. Boo. Those are not fun, but they are necessary. So you have ingredients, barcodes, those tiny accreditation logos that certain packages need. You need to figure out how to fit those in without overwhelming the design. And you have to balance compliance and visual appeal. Next, you have to put your product to the test. And we just strongly believe in building a prototype, printing it out on paper, folding it up, whatever you need to do, put it on the shelf next to where you would want to see it on the shelf and see how it stacks up. Usually when you do this, you can see right away, is it standing out? What needs tweaked? Can you see the logo? Can you see the name? Can you see your benefits? The last thing is when you're going to print, you never skip your press check. This is your last chance to catch any issues before production, because real life and what you see on the screen is not always the same. So you have to make sure it's perfect before giving the green light. Your package ultimately ends up being a silent salesperson for you. So make sure it knows how to work that room as well as you do.
All right. So we already had got a little sneak peek of the audit earlier for In the Curious Kitchen. You saw what the packaging looked like then. We talked about those giftable moments. We talked about the wow factor on the shelf in a sea of sameness with a lot of small packaging. And of course, we talked a lot about that mouth-watering appeal that practically just leaps into your shopping cart. You can notice we didn't forget about the glasses. They are staying because they are very iconic and we couldn't have this without them. So what we did with this design, there's multiple designs that we presented, but we settled on one that was using this overwrap. So you can see that cardboard overwrap that goes over this jar, the Boozy Cherries jar. So really we were able to use like this smaller package here, and it really packed a huge punch and gave us a lot of real estate. We had bigger branding, very stunning customized patterns. So each flavor has a customized pattern for it that really speaks to the appetite appeal. You know, all the while they're all screaming, take me home from the shelf. Once you open this up, so once you get home, second moment of truth, when you get home and you use it, you have to take the overwrap off. And then inside we have space. We're able to now tell the founder story. We give a recipe. There's a QR code to our website. So we were able to utilize all of this space that really helps her push people to her website, get people excited, gives them a recipe. Hopefully, you know, if they love the recipe, they'll keep that overwrap. So really then, you know, this is a product, but it's not just a product. We designed an experience. And it's a kind of thing, you know, when you see here that you could bring as a hostess gift to your next party that you go to, and everyone's swooning, everyone wants to try it. We really wanted to make sure that giftable moment, that excitement was there. And Kristy just mentioned this because you have to test, you have to kind of get it as close to reality as you can. We took our mock-ups, we went to Jungle Gyms, we placed it on shelf, we took pictures. But really it helped us know that yes, we were accomplishing our goals. We created very strong appetite appeal. It had that shelf presence that we were hoping for. And we could confidently say that to the client and make sure that we accomplished all of our goals here.
Okay, so our last category in Make Our Brand Guidelines, they are not the sexiest thing to talk about, but for a small business, we think that they really, really matter. Your brand, think of them as a person. They're consistent in how they talk, how they dress, how they act every time you see them. Brand guidelines are those rules that keep your person recognizable and trustworthy, no matter where they're going to show up. They're making sure that your logo, your color, your fonts, your tone of voice, however you communicate on social media, it all stays consistent across the board. Small businesses and your brand, your consistency is key. You may not have the budget of a giant corporation, but that does not mean your brand should feel any less professional. In fact, that consistency builds credibility. It creates trust with your audience and makes your business look and feel polished even when you have that small team. Without brand guidelines, your messaging can feel a little scattered sometimes, which confuses your audience and weakens your brand. So whether you're designing your website, sending emails, printing business cards, the brand guidelines are really there to help you stay on brand and to make sure that you're getting that right impression each time someone interacts with your brand. On this page, real quick before Holly changes it, we've got some things that we typically would recommend showing up on a brand guideline so that when you pass these off to others who are working with your brand, they understand everything you have working together.
Yeah, and you can notice too, like there's a lot that first values in history. It's all really that think part, that think phase that you've really solidified it into who you are and how you show up every day.
Yep.
This is just giving you a snippet. Like Kristy said, brand guidelines really aren't the most, they're the thing you work at the end and you really got to put in those rules. Like it really is like a rule book for your brand. So when you better define what is allowed and how to use the tools, the more consistent your brand is going to show up. So this page that you're seeing here, that one right in the middle, is kind of talking about the logo system for PG&E. We have rules on when, where, and how to use the primary logo and the secondary logos. There's rules on the white space, which is the space around the logo, that things shouldn't be, shouldn't be in, like with that clean white space. We have rules on how small the logo should go. So every page, color, typography, you have photography, any of these design elements, think of them as an opportunity to provide anyone with these crucial details on how to properly and consistently use your brand. So then now, like ideally now, PG&E partners, when they give it to their different partners, they know how to use their brand consistently and on brand when they're not even in the room. So that is that is really the goal of this, is that whoever is using your brand or creating something should know how to do it and how to make it show up consistently.
Okay, so move. We've got a well thought out brand. It's beautiful, right? We've got it figured out. It's got a great color system because we thought about that on the drive home. It's aligned with our strategy. So now it's time to move. This is that stage where we're getting your product off the shelf and into the hand of your customers. We're taking a brand and we're launching it out into the world. We're offering our services. We're ready to go. There are endless ways to do this, guys. And we just captured a handful here, and we're going to talk on video creation, websites, and e-commerce specifically today. So video and animation, let's face it, our attention spans today are shorter than a goldfish. I'm sure you've heard that. Goldfish focus for about 9 seconds based on research, but us humans, we're down to 8. So distractions are endless. So capturing our audience's attention is even more challenging than ever. And that's why we really feel so strongly that video and animation are playing such a crucial role in your brand's life cycle. Video, it is powerful because it's moving, right? It's capturing our eye and it's telling a story even faster than static images can. So even if it's just a quick animation on your website or one of those longer full campaign videos, the goal is to hook your audience in those first few seconds. Videos are going to help you convey more emotion and more energy and that information that's going to resonate instantly. And let's be honest, in this scroll happy world we all live in, something has to move to stop your thumb in its tracks, right? So incorporating video and animation in your brand strategy is not a bonus anymore. We feel it's one of those essential elements that keep your brand top of mind and engaging your audience in those more meaningful ways.
All right. So the video that you're seeing here is an explainer video. So those are really perfect for telling a more complex story. You know, whether it is some new technology, maybe it's a medical device. In this case, it was a new product form. So explainer videos, they really help break it down and give people a lot of information in an engaging way. So for Zoa powder, we showcase the benefits here, and we really wanted to feature Joanne Johnson to add in that credibility. We made sure that it had that same energy, that same excitement that Zoa already brings to the market. So it feels seamless. It's just it's a brand extension. So how do we talk about a brand extension in a way that feels like Zoa, but we want to know that it's also very new? Here's when it really does get better. So you can slice this 60-second video into bite-sized videos, a 30-second, a 15-second, even that 6-second clip that can be used for social media, e-commerce, different promotional videos. So this longer video became super versatile. It's always good to think, even a 30-second video, think about how you can take something like that. You know, how do you make it into smaller snippets so you get, more bang for your buck, honestly. So then one thing we always like to say, before you just start animating, you need to take a step back. You need to storyboard this out and get your script right. It is a lot faster and it's a lot cheaper to do this on paper. It allows you to change things quickly and then get things right before you get it to the screen, where things do take a lot more time.
Cool. So e-commerce, anybody selling stuff today knows they need an e-commerce store, right? So a lot of the e-commerce shows up on platforms like Amazon, but this would also apply to your own stores that you may have on your websites, etc. But the key is to understand some of the different layout options and parts and pieces that show up on the page. And so on this diagram, we're kind of breaking apart these parts of the Amazon page. On the right, on the little tablet diagram, you can see what we call above the fold. So this is when somebody's talking about above the fold, they're talking about everything you're going to see on screen before somebody starts to scroll, right? So it's what shows up right there on the screen. It's prime real estate. And this is where you really want those super key visuals, your product name, the most important information. This is like the first impression, big moment. It's like that window display in a store. It needs to capture your attention immediately. Then we have below it what we call the below the fold, and this is where the more detailed information lives. This is where people tend to dive more deep into features, benefits, reviews, comparisons. So make sure that the images that you're picking to go in here all have purpose and are carefully vetted, so that all the static and animated images that are in here are key. They don't want to just look good. They need to explain and visualize all the aspects of the product before a customer has to ask. So your high quality visuals help bring your product to life, and they can make the difference when somebody is deciding whether or not to click add to cart.
All right, website. Your website, when you think about it, can often be the first impression someone will have of your brand. So we want to make sure, does it count? We want to make sure that this counts. So these days, when you think of it, a website really isn't optional. It's a baseline for legitimacy. If I can't find your website, or if it doesn't match what I've seen in your branding or other materials, I start to wonder if this brand is even real. I start to just say, when consistency isn't there, you start to question things, and you never want anyone questioning anything about your brand. So a well-designed website, what that's going to do, it's going to tell your audience that you're serious and that they can truly trust you. So just a few golden rules, just a couple golden rules that we think about when we're designing a site. First, I've already said it a million times, consistency is key. So make sure your website aligns with your brand look and feel, from your colors to your fonts to your messaging. It really needs to be a seamless extension of everything that you have created. Second, we need to make it user-friendly. No one likes a site that's hard to navigate. Do your homework on accessibility. There are plenty of best practices available. This QR code right here, if you scan it, it's going to take you to a free universal guidelines. Like it's out there. You can scan it. It's going to help you with accessibility. It's got things like, and it gets into details like font size, colors, all of that. It's there. Ignoring this, I think, is a missed opportunity. So really take time to understand it. Or if you have a web partner who's working with you, make sure they're taking the time to understand it. So asking questions about accessibility and what they're doing, I think, is key. And then finally, we want to keep it fresh. Your website is a living, breathing part of your brand. It should be regularly updated with new content. It could be blogs, it could be features, product info. How do you keep getting people to come back because they're curious? That's the big thing. You don't want to go there once and never come back. You want to keep, getting those little tidbits to get them to come back. So in the end, it is really, it is about trust. If your website doesn't reflect your brand's identity, it really could cost you more than just one click.
Cool. So that kind of wraps it up, and we have a QR code here at the bottom. If you'd like, you can download for some of the takeaways that summarize a lot of the things that we have in here. But, really, it's summarized into some of these think, make, move aspects back to what we were talking about. And lastly, we also include design partner tips. So, we'd love to work with everybody, but we know we're not everybody's cup of tea. So we tried to give some recommendations for how to find the right partner for you and what we would hope that you were looking for in those relationships. And Jill, we can send you this afterwards for people if they don't have a chance to see it or scan it right now. And then the last kind of thing that we were going to share in the next slide, we created a program that we are calling Launchpad that's really focused on helping those brands that are good but are ready to go to great. And we feel like it's a unique process. And Holly, go ahead and hit play if you don't mind.
Yep. I hope sound works, but it might not.
Yep.
But it's
Press,
still
yeah,
fine.
there you go. Working.
Okay, good.
Some.
Oopsie, there we go.
Yeah, cool. So thanks for giving us the opportunity to share some of the things that we're looking at when building brands that we think could help you guys. And please reach out with any questions. If there was any QR codes or downloads that you didn't have a chance to scan, please let us know and we will send them right to you. And I think questions?
Yeah, let's open it up for questions. Anybody want to either put their question in the chat or just get on mic and ask it?
Okay. Hello, my name is Felicia Cheers, and I just started a candle business, actually launched a couple weeks ago. My question is about the slide where you have the color wheel with the logos.
Yeah.
So I understand what you're saying with the color of the logo, but when you're designing your labels, your product labels,
Mhm.
how would you go about matching the right logo label color with a color palette for your labels?
Okay, very specific question. First of all, congrats on launching.
Thank
That's
you.
very exciting. Holly, if you want to zoom back up to that slide, I don't know if
Yeah.
you're able to.
Yes.
So it's not an exact science, Felicia, really, it's about knowing that your color choices have deeper meaning.
Okay.
It's not if you make something green, it's the end of the world, right? But it is knowing that different colors do evoke other feelings in them. A lot of people will like match a color to a scent, right? So that might be something you're doing. And I think that's very reasonable and a really great system. But when you're talking about like your brand overall, it's just knowing that if you're representing yourself as orange versus blue, there's just some different background things that people typically relate to those colors with. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, using color as a system in your packaging for a candle representing scents. I mean, that's a no-brainer. I mean, that's just a very typical way to express that. And there's no way to, that's not a bad thing. It's a good
Okay.
thing.
So this
Yeah.
is just specifically for your logo, not your actual color palette for. or
It's
thing.
more of a conversation around color choices are evoking certain things, right? So
Mhm.
if Felicia, for you, very specific scent related to a color, but somebody else may have a technology brand, right? And if they're making it red or orange, right, is that helping them or hurting them versus another color? And it's just
Okay.
making sure that when you're thinking about your mission and your values, that you're thinking about the color choices that might help you
Okay.
with
Mhm.
those things.
Okay.
Does that help?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
it
I
does.
think
Thank
too,
you.
like Felicia, when I think about like candle with scents, like colors just come to mind. It
Mhm.
might be that your overall branding, and I'm just, maybe you have a overall branding, is it a little bit more neutral in color? So then the
Yes.
scent colors are able to really work with anything.
Okay.
Type of thing, because you know that you're going to go that pathway. So
Mhm.
it's thinking about all of that thing. Color just plays a big role.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Uh-huh.
What's the name of your brand, Felicia?
Bella Fiamma.
Bella
It's
Fiamma.
Italian for a beautiful flame.
Nice.
Beautiful.
Thank
See,
you.
an international word in one speech. I love it.
Yeah, thank you.
It's awesome. I
Thanks,
love
Felicia.
candles.
Yes. Does anybody else have a question for Holly and Kristy?
Oops, there we go.
Actually, why don't you, if you don't mind, stopping the share and we'll go back
Yep.
to gallery. Thank you. Any other questions? I'm gonna
Just a quick
include.
question. Oh,
Great, go ahead. Go ahead.
You were talking about the importance of like your logo and the name of your company and getting a trademark attorney. So I've spoken with attorneys. Very quickly, you learn they're expensive. As someone who is a beginner in business, do you have a recommendation for either making that conversation shorter or like that?
There's some legwork you can do with
Okay.
the name too. So I always like to call it the Google kill search. So if you have
Okay.
a name, I like to see how many layers of Google does your name show up. So if your name was, let's just make, if your name was like Gap, which it wouldn't be, but
Right.
you would immediately be like, oh man, there's a company out there. It's on the first page. It's the first one. I better not. If
Yeah.
it's on, if you don't see it, there might be like, okay, this could be a name. I
Mhm.
don't have it. God, I'm forgetting. There is a website and it has all of the different, it's a trademark. So it's a government website.
Okay.
It's, I can't remember the name at the moment, but
It's uspto.gov.
thank you. That's it.
You're welcome.
I don't know, but you can then go in there and find where your company lands, and then you can put your name in, and that's gonna give you you're gonna feel more confident.
Mhm.
You're gonna know, it'll give you markings of like, was that Felicia?
Yes,
Does it give you red, green, and yellow? It used to do that, right?
I'm not sure. I know
Okay.
I did a basic word search.
Okay.
And so you can see if there's a company out there with your name and if it happens to be in the same class that your business would be in. So you
Mhm.
can find that on your own and it's free. And they
Yeah.
also have videos to step you through each part of the process of filing your trademark application.
Mhm.
They have videos to step you through it. And I mean, you can look at that. And then if you still have questions, I would say find an attorney. But
Yeah.
yeah.
But you've then done that's some of the legwork they're gonna do.
Yes.
So you've already done your own, so now you can be more confident that this looks pretty good. I want to get the last.
Mhm.
They will do a deeper search, but it just helps you along how to narrow it down, not give them, because they're going to charge you per name. So if you give them 2 instead of 6, that's a huge cost difference.
Yeah, and let's just say that Holly and I like to cover our bases.
Yes.
That we say, please check with trademark attorney, because I don't want to ever say that process is going to cover you completely.
Yeah.
So we would always recommend working with trademark attorney. Does that mean every single person who starts a company does? Nope. Most don't. But covering bases and making sure we're covered, we always recommend it.
Yeah. I'm just giving you some tools.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
Great question, Alex. Anybody else have a question? So I put the merch design studio, that's what Kristy's company and Holly's company. I put the link in the chat and I put that uspto.gov. Thanks to Felicia, put that in the chat as well. And yep, there's Kristy's email.
Yeah, reach out if you guys have any questions or you had any links that you wanted me to send over.
Yeah, this was really interesting, very helpful, really good in depth, and also just a great overview, lots of things to think about when you're talking about branding. And I think your point was very well taken about not only does the brand involve more than just your logo, it's really interesting to think about, just think through like the companies, the brands that we recognize and why they are so singular, why, like you said, like Tide is a word, right? But there's nothing, their thing has nothing to do with the tide.
Right.
But we think of Tide and we can immediately picture the bottle of Tide, the color of it and everything. So they've really done a great job, and all which is your point entirely, is, the $1 million and the $1 billion brands they do it well, and they do it every channel, every way that you can. And so just giving inspiration to the small brands, right? The smaller brands that we all have, about how to think about that and how to perhaps standardize and position ourselves. And also what I like about the before and after of in the Curious Kitchen too, is like, that was a cute brand. It was, but now, wow.
Right.
And also it makes you hope or realize that you can have hope. Like, you don't have to get it absolutely $1 million level on day one.
Nope.
I mean, MK has been doing business for years, and now she's elevated now because she's in way more stores. So that's excellent. But just
she's a great example, Jill, of somebody who had a good product and good positioning already, and she wanted to go and be great. And she wanted to set, her goal was, I want to be on the shelf at Publix and Whole Foods. And we were like, cool, let's put your stuff right there next to it. And yeah, she was good at Jungle Gyms, but when you took a look at what she was up against when she got to the bigger categories in order to be that big brand, she had to level her game up a lot higher. And she was, first of all, a joy to work with because it's MK.
Yeah.
And second of all, the product's amazing. So it made it really easy to like bring it to life. But she was through the Launchpad program. So a student did that work
Wow.
with us. She hand painted every single ingredient and then used them to create all the patterns and everything that became her packaging. So it was really the test that we were like, yeah, this is a cool program that we think could be viable for small businesses. So
For sure.
Yeah.
And it's a good, I know, good branding is not free. So that's a great way to make it more accessible.
Mhm. Yeah.
And like I said, I just really love this idea that you can build your brand the way it is now, build your business with your brand now, and then tweaks, some perhaps major, some
Small.
seemingly not minor, but like you can still see that's still in the Curious Kitchen, still the same brand, still it's not like she had to entirely redo everything. So what you started with, you still have that name recognition and the glasses and some of that
Yep.
stuff that she was working with, and so it wasn't like she had to throw that all away. She just built,
Exactly.
you guys both built on it.
I think that's when you're looking for a good design partner, is one who listens, because I think a lot of, it's like, you never have to, as a designer, it's fun to design and like go crazy, but you really need to sit and listen, because a lot of times the story's already in the logo and it's good. It needs maybe to be polished, or it needs to be bolder, or it's just not effectively communicating. And so just making sure that people are listening to you is huge, and not saying a complete redesign, because I think, it's can be something where agencies get excited.
Yeah.
Yeah, they love to
I-
start from scratch every time.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
I have a question. Did Dwayne Johnson already have that tattoo, or did he get that tattoo because of your branding?
Tattoo was first.
Cool.
but-
That's so cool.
Yeah, so we had the opportunity to work with Dwayne and his whole management team from the very, very, very beginning of, hey, we want to make this energy brand. So what was really amazing is he was super involved in the early stages, and this is 4 years in now that we've been working with them and that brand. He's very much less involved now, but in the beginning he was involved. And yeah, the tattoo was part of the inspiration for the mark. And obviously he was a big part of the naming. He was super interested in making sure it represented, his roots, which was, he's Polynesian. And that's why that Toa brand was such a strong option, as he felt like it really embodied who he was. And he wanted to create healthy warriors, which is kind of like his archetype he's building around Zoa. So, and then
That was great.
we get to look at pictures of Dwayne every day. All
I
day.
mean, it's not a bad job.
There's only so many times you can Photoshop him that you're like,
Yeah, he is just pretty much perfect anyway.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Awesome.
So good. Thank you all so much. Thank you
Yeah,
so
thank
much
you.
to Carrie from Tap Systems for sponsoring, and we will be sending out the replay.
Thank
Thanks,
you
guys.
so much. Have a
Everybody.
great day.
You.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.